March 14, 2012, my son Thomas lost his battle with the disease of addiction. I now belong to a club that no parent should ever belong to. Do you know the signs? Do you know the trends that children are doing in today's world? Do you know the signs and symptoms? Do you know the signs and symptoms of drug abuse? I want to empower and educate Long Islanders by bringing a force of professionals and how to prevent the disease of addiction. Long Island in Crisis. Good evening and welcome to Long Island in Crisis. This show is dedicated to the education and empowerment of families and also patients suffering with substance use disorder. Addiction is running rampant in our country now with the heroin and opiate epidemic, but the drug is really unimportant. It is the disease of addiction that we need to pay attention to. And our children, or this generation that is lost to the world today, we are losing on Long Island in New York 1.5, it's ridiculous, I know, 1.5 persons per day. But every single day, someone on Long Island wakes up without their loved one. And that is status quo that is unacceptable in any place in the world. I lost my son 4 years ago, and we need to do better. We know better. We know more about the science of prevention. We know more about substance use disorder. And we need to pay attention, and we need to empower and arm our children especially with healthy decision-making and coping skills and life skills and decision-making processes. And the world is moving at an exponential rate for them today. And they need to be equipped also. Parents spend an awful lot of time and money on SAT courses, on athletic development, in thinking that their child is going to get a scholarship. I think that our goal should be to have a healthy, well-adjusted young person on their way to college for their next experience. We need to take a little bit of pressure off of them in today's world. But my special guest tonight is the head of the Teen Institute and who works with my friend Kim Laube. And Alana, thank you so much for coming tonight because you do a phenomenal job with the Teen Institute. That weekend that I got to spend the whole weekend was life-changing for me, never mind those kids. And those kids are incredible with how they're taught to share in our family groups and how they relate to one another. But my biggest joy was to hear 100 teenagers playing during their free time, singing, frisbee, basketball, laying in the sun, talking, not texting, because phones go away at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, which is incredible.
That's right.
And they don't even care that they don't have them. That's the beauty of it.
It really is. It's an incredible weekend, so thank you for having me here.
Yes.
You know, you've come on the weekend, so you know the power of it, you know the exciting things. So the Long Island Teen Institute is a conference, a leadership conference that we hold, that Hugs Inc. holds 4 to 5 times a year out on Shelter Island, and it's a really, really incredible way for young people to, first and foremost, to meet other young people, to network with their peers from other towns and neighboring cities and from all across the island. They get to meet people who they never really would have met had they not been all brought and suggested to come out onto this leadership conference. And it really is an incredible opportunity for them. So I love the things that you were talking about right off the bat, the things that you really liked about it. So it is a substance use prevention and a leadership development conference. And some of the things that we do, and you know, we talk about drugs and alcohol, we talk about these really, really difficult things that they don't always get the right information on, or they don't always get to have a full conversation about. So we talk about all these. We have real conversations. We treat them like the young adults that they are and talk in a real way about drugs, about alcohol, about the dangers of these substances. And to some extent, they already know. So in addition to all of these things, these high-risk choices that they could possibly be making, we also include so many opportunities for them to have these great experiences
Yes.
like you're talking about. So they have these, the family groups that you were talking about is when, like, you know, when it was an adult, a couple of student leaders who are our seasoned, our veteran attendees of the program.
And who are seniors in
who-
high school.
Seniors and juniors
Blew
in
me
high
away.
school. They're incredible.
So
I want
accomplished.
to be them when I grow up.
Yes.
These young people.
So
They
accomplished.
blow my mind constantly. And so they're the ones, you know, you were in a family group, but you weren't tasked with the leadership role. You were a youth, you were an adult volunteer, you were an adult partner in this process and there to support them. But those student leaders, the juniors and seniors in high school, were the ones running the show for sure from start to finish. And 6 or 7 groups throughout a 48-hour process. It's a lot.
It's a
And
lot.
It really is. And so they're leading different icebreakers, different games, different experiences where young people get to know each other. And so you had that group where you got to know that core group of 10 to 12 people much better throughout the entire weekend because you met with them 6 to 7 times. And then we had all those different community groups where we had guest speakers. We had Jen Lebowitz come.
Yes.
And I know your good friend Jen, and
Oh, love
she was
her.
talking about some of her great things that she knows how to do about time management and about study tips and things that
Which no one teaches our
they
youth.
don't teach them, right? Sometimes we don't teach those things that seem like they should be so simple, but we're so busy teaching them about all the big red flags that they should be minding, that they should be aware of, that we're not teaching them how to,
How to
time
cope.
management, how to cope, how to have these basic coping skills,
You know,
these
and
basic things.
My daughter in 5th grade, she actually went to the middle school in 5th grade in our school district. They've since changed that. She's all of 10 years old, going from elementary school, one teacher, one desk, one everything, to navigating a locker, 3 classes, 3 teachers, the bus, this
Yeah.
big building, and she's a baby. She's 10 years old. And I remember going up to school and saying, do you teach study habits? Do you teach them how to organize themselves? Well, no. Well, I think that some time should be spent because I'm trying to do it from home, but I'm not seeing, it would take so little time, but we as adults assume what shouldn't be assumed.
Right.
That kids have these built-in mechanisms to
Right.
know what you're talking
Right.
about, and they don't.
Yeah, I think a lot of adults, not all of them, but a lot of adults will make the mistake by assuming that young people are having very similar experiences to what they had when they grew up. Now, you had a certain experience when you were growing up in high school. I'm 15 years older than some of these students, so while I'm, closer in age, sometimes I feel like I'm in high
You're
school
light
with
years,
them,
right.
but I didn't have all the media. I didn't have all the technology coming at me from every single direction like they did. I didn't get a cell phone until I was well into high school, and it couldn't do one fraction of the things that phones can do. They're so connected and they're so overstimulated by some of these things that are supposed to be helping that you're absolutely right. So they don't always have the coping skills necessary to figure out how to manage their schedules and manage their lives without the use of technology. So the big scary thing that you mentioned, which is when they come in at 5 o'clock, when they come in at that conference, they put their phone in the basket.
Yes.
And they see all the other phones, the 50 to 60 other phones that go in that basket that all the young people have chosen to unplug from the internet, from Facebook, from Instagram and Snapchat, from their friends and family for the 48 hours. And some of them are scared, right? Some of them, it's like a security blanket
yes,
having
they're
that
anxious
phone.
about that.
It's an anxious thing. I mean, when I don't have my phone, when my phone dies, I'm worrying that somebody's not going to be able to contact me.
Right.
But when they get into it, a couple of hours into it, especially once they start to meet other people, meet other young people and start to make friends and start to really foster those interactions with people based on their shared experiences based on just talking to somebody and getting to know them. 24 hours later, by 5 o'clock the next afternoon, when they're having their break, especially on those nice, beautiful days, they're outside playing frisbee and they're playing soccer and basketball,
they're just being kids.
playing guitar, playing games, and they're going back to those experiences that anybody can have that you don't need to have a charger to have. And it's a
Exactly.
really, really incredible opportunity.
Well, when they get anxious and they get nervous, it's a very safe thing just to look down.
Very
You know,
easy to
and-
ignore somebody.
Yes,
Like
and
this.
it's, I think everyone, you could be 90 years old, and if you were in school and you didn't want to be called on, what did you do? You pretended
look
you were
down.
writing, you were
Yep.
pretending that you were doing anything else. So it's very easy not to engage,
Yeah.
eye contact, having to come up with
Yeah.
conversation. But these are things that are lost on them,
Absolutely.
and they're not having that physical human interaction.
Right. So they're making the choice. We put in bold print in our application that phones will be turned in and they'll be returned to you, and we'll sing to them at night and we'll be really nice to your phones, but that you're not going to have access to it. So they come in knowing full well. And for some of these young people, they are making this conscious choice, even if they are a little intimidated by it. Some of them are excited, are thrilled to
I think it's
unplug
very
from the
freeing
weekend.
to.
It's liberating. For
It
sure.
really is.
Yeah.
It is, and it's
They love
so
it.
nice
Yeah.
not to hear any of the BS
Yeah.
that you can really get involved with.
Mm-hmm.
First off, everyone on Facebook has a life that doesn't really exist.
Right.
So
Those
you're
are only the most
competing-
perfect things.
Right, you're competing with perfection that doesn't exist
Yeah.
anywhere in the world. But to them, well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. You always have that because they're still kids.
Yeah.
They're just kids.
They're still forming their worldview. They're trying to express themselves.
Yes.
They're trying to say, hello, world, this is who I am. And they're figuring that out. They don't always know. We don't always know. Some days I don't know who I am.
Heck
And-
no.
Right? And
I'll
and-
let you know when
and
I
we-
figure me out.
and we all have the right to have to
Yes.
to constantly try and figure ourselves out. And so when they make this sometimes scary, intimidating choice, but ultimately extremely rewarding choice to come out to Shelter Island and stay at a camp and meet 50 to 60 teens from all over Long Island, they are really taking that risk, and the risk often pays off. Sometimes the things that we take the biggest risks on are the things that end up mattering the most to us in our
Absolutely.
lives.
Absolutely, but I love that they are dealing, and I don't think there was anyone, including myself in our group, they are dealing with some very serious issues in their own world, in their school world, in their families. We don't ever know what other people are carrying or dealing with.
Right.
So substance use at risk could be just simply because what's going on in the family. It could be something that has to do with them, but they have to share that
Yeah.
with people they don't even know.
Right.
And they do an incredible job.
They really do. They
They're so willing to share because, and this I truly do believe, someone's listening to them.
absolutely.
They're being validated, and they're being heard.
Yeah.
And those are two things that I will speak as a parent. Sometimes you're so busy with taking care of everything that you assume that your kid is, I want to talk to you about something. Well, don't worry about that. You're fine.
Yeah.
They are worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we as parents have to slow down our world
Yeah.
too and say, okay, why are you worried about that? How can we solve this? What can we do
Yeah.
to make this not so bad for you?
Right. You're absolutely right. Sometimes as the adults, our view of their life is we only see a sliver of it. We only see what they're going to show to us
Yeah.
sometimes. So by coming out, they're learning to not only trust their peers, they're learning to not only trust other young adults, other high school students, but the adult volunteers. They're learning that sometimes, and the adults, I'm sure maybe you did, will share in those family groups that,
Absolutely.
it's a learning process for them. Sometimes adults don't know how to interact with a young person and don't know how to have a conversation directly. So the whole idea of the Teen Institute is a youth-adult partnership.
Yes.
And so that's the only way, because they'll have an incredible weekend. 99% to 100%, hopefully, of the students who come will have an incredible weekend, an incredible, affirming, validating weekend where they come home and they feel that they
Yes.
were heard.
Yes.
And what we want to do is make that not the only place where they can feel heard. And some kids have that platform in their own lives. Some of them are very vocal in the student government, or they're in the theater, or they're on their athletic team, or they're very strong academically. And so they have that platform, that medium, for where they can express themselves and continue to use their voice and train their voice. Our voice is a muscle that we need to learn how to use. And some of them don't. So coming on to these weekends and learning that there are adults who are willing to listen if we approach them, they can go back and they can interact with their teachers or their clergy or the people in their lives, their bosses,
go-to
their
person.
parents, and they can form them. And they know that forming those relationships, you know, we have young people who've come on these weekends from communities and then gotten involved later on with their community coalitions. And they've learned to take the skills that they've learned on our weekends, talking about substance use disorder, talking about healthy relationships, talking about self-esteem and tolerance and acceptance, because we don't only talk about substance use. Substance use is, as you know, is a symptom. It's
Yes.
not the cause. So substance use is what we talk about in the context of all of the other things that are flying at kids these days.
Bullying.
Bullying, absolutely. And so we give them the tools to learn how to use that voice so that they can talk about it and they can express themselves.
By talking
Those
about it,
protective factors.
right, then they don't have to feel, if someone's listening to the pain that they're in, they're not going to be so apt to use a substance to kill that pain.
Absolutely. And then a young person who has found their voice can then inspire and empower their peers to find their voices. And then there's this beautiful domino effect of this community-wide change that can really happen. And that's really the goal of these teen institutes, is not just we want to change every person who comes on our
Yes.
conferences, but we also want to affect the community as a whole. We want to have that ripple effect. We want these things to be long-lasting. And so that's how Teen Institute started back in the 80s. It was really strong. Our program was strong, and then a lot of the prevention dollars got cut. And a lot of the schools didn't know how they could still support programs like this when they had so many other things to focus on.
Yes.
And it was a struggle. And so now, in the midst of this crisis that you speak of each week, in the midst of these crises on Long Island, we're finally able to give voice to this program and to show that prevention really does work. That the more we give these kids the voice and the opportunity to express themselves and to become comfortable in who they are, and to know, not only know what choices to make, because most of them, a good deal of them know
They do know.
what's right and what's wrong.
Yes.
They're not ignorant of that, but it doesn't even stop at knowing what's right and what's wrong. I know that a red light is where I'm supposed to stop, but maybe if it's late and I'm driving my car and there's nobody around, maybe I think I need to get somewhere and there's no one around and I should do it anyway. So it's not knowing right or wrong, it's knowing how to make those healthy decisions that are going to help in the long run. So,
And substance use is really, they're trying to take care of their anxiety,
Yeah.
their anxiousness, not feel the pain that they're in.
these kids
So
are
we-
under more pressure than any generation of young people that we've ever seen. They're starting college prep in middle school. These standardized tests, everything that goes
crazy.
on, the pressure that they put on themselves, that sometimes their parents, their teachers will put on them, often for the greater good of their lives. Often you see a spark in a young kid who's athletic and you want to put them on a traveling sports team and you want to put them in this and that and you want to give them every opportunity, and that's great. And sometimes it can stretch a young person too thin. And so even when they have these protective factors in their lives, like opportunities, their parents who are going to validate them and support them, the anxiety, the stress. They don't always know how to handle that. So when we do our Saturday night guided meditation wind down after the long day that they have, they're learning how to shut down and just be in the
Yes.
moment, to wiggle their toes and be where their feet are at, as we say out on Shelter Island. And they're really learning
Everyone
those coping
needs to
skills.
learn that.
Absolutely.
Everyone needs to learn that.
Absolutely. I
I
did
know-
it before I came on the show.
I practice yoga, and I've been practicing, and without my practice, coming through losing both my parents and getting divorced, and certainly losing my son, if I didn't have those skills, I don't know where I would be.
Yeah.
You know, I know this, that a doctor would have prescribed me anything I wanted. People would not have said a word about if I started drinking.
Right. They would have said, of course she's,
Of course
look at
she
what
is.
she's been through. Of course she's
Exactly.
turning to something.
But at some point in time, I would have to deal with all of those things.
Right.
So there's no putting it off till.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to empower our kids to say, you know what, you're okay. You're okay tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to solve this. It may not get solved tomorrow, but it will get solved. So
Absolutely.
no worries tonight. You're safe. You're loved. You're home. Rest.
Absolutely.
They
Giving
need to
them-
hear those words.
Yeah. Giving a
Not
safe,
everything is a
safe place.
Exactly. Not everything is, you know, and it is so true. Kids are playing baseball at 10 years old, 12 months out of the year. When I see
incredible.
kids 10 years old icing their elbows because they've been pitching too much, what are we doing? Sal Acasio, who used to be a lacrosse goalie for the New York Saints, and Mike Thomas was a phenomenal goalie. And he said to Thomas one day, he said, Thomas was telling him, I love to play football, but I think I should and he said, every sport you play, everything that you do other than lacrosse will bring something back to your passion. You will learn something from every other experience. So be well-rounded. Enjoy yourself. This is not do or die. Go be a
Yeah,
kid. And I
absolutely.
never, I thanked him up and down because you can't get caught up in that.
Right. And what an incredible thing to say to a young person.
Right.
And so, we support that on these conferences. We'll have the kids, we say out there that if we train just one kind of leader, then we have just one kind of leader. So we've got the kids who are on the student government, we've got the athletes, we've got the theater superstar, we've got the singers, the musicians, the academics, and we've got everybody in between. Because there's a place for everybody, and everybody deserves to come out and to feel that. And so they get to interact and they get to share experiences. They'll do different activities where they all get to challenge their own leadership skills and really explore them. When we're doing something like the Great Egg Drop, where you have to, as a team, build something that's going to support this very fragile egg, and we're going to drop it from 6 feet up in the air and see what happens. The young people out there, they surprise themselves. They shock
They
themselves.
surprised me.
Of course, they surprise us all. It's such a beautiful thing to watch them tapping into something that maybe they knew was there and they were scared of, or maybe they had no idea at all, or maybe they knew was there and they're exercising that muscle, and they all interact and they all work together and form this beautiful team. And then they have that experience. So a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years later, when they're tackling something new in their life, maybe they're remembering back to when they had the idea when they spoke up, because that's something that can be a really formative experience.
That is a powerful experience because within my group, who you thought was going to step up didn't always step up.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful to watch because you watch them. Should I say it? Should I not say it? Should I say it? Should I not say it?
Yeah.
And you can
See that
feel
internal struggle.
Yes. And then they just come out and say it.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, that was brilliant. And that, again, the affirmation that I had a good idea
Yeah.
and that it worked.
And the validation that they get from their group.
Yes.
These young people, they are so supportive of each other because if somebody has come one weekend and they had a great experience their first time, they come back and they're there to help create a new experience for somebody else. So as validators, accepted, as special and as comfortable as they felt on that first time, they are so motivated to help others feel that way because it's a pay it forward kind of experience. And that's what they do. That's what we teach them, to take these skills and to go back into their teams, to go back into their groups, their social circles in school, and to really bring about these changes, because that's the only way that they are going to feel empowered and be able to make these systemic changes in their schools and in their communities.
And that's what I would love to see. So I can't wait to get, some scholarships going. And you know what we're going to do? We'll be right back after this message, and then we'll say what the plan is.
Great.
To create this world. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Formula Auto Wash, where every day is a great day for a car wash. Open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Sundays 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. Detailing packages for every budget, starting out at $29.99. 100% hand wash and detail centre. Horsehair and microfiber brushes and mitts. Proudly using Ecolab Blue Coral soaps and waxes. Formula Auto Wash has served the community for over 30 years. Senior discounts all day, every day. Ladies' Day Wednesday, $3 off any wash. Early bird discount Monday through Thursday till 9:30 a.m. Check out our website, formulaautowash.com.
For professional motorcycle transport and towing, think Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing. Proudly serving all of Long Island, we feature expert handling and 24/7 service. So send a limo for your toy with Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing.
Galaxy Luxury Coach is a full-service limousine and party bus company. Family-owned and operated, we are an industry leader with over 25 years of experience in providing best-in-class luxury transportation for your special event. Whether it's your precious wedding day, an all-day wine tour out east, your high school prom, that special birthday, or just an amazing night on the town, our professional chauffeurs stand ready to ensure your special event is truly special. Galaxy Luxury Coach has one of the largest and modern party bus fleets in the New York area. Our party buses are simply nightclubs on wheels. Concert sound systems, light shows, lasers and strobes, multicolor LED lighting brilliantly lights your party bus inside and out. For corporate and more laid-back events, we will cater to your specific needs and requests. What sets Galaxy aside from all others in the luxury transportation industry is our attention to detail in customizing our services to your special event. At Galaxy, it's all about you and your guests. Galaxy customers return time and time again because they know they can trust Galaxy to help deliver those lifetime memorable moments. Step aboard and let your Galaxy experience begin.
You smell so good, I won't have to bathe the next 2 weeks. Anything. So, here, laugh a little harder. All right?
I will take him. I would be proud to show you off, you little old weirdo man.
Get a new sweater. The worst dressed man here tonight.
Right.
Look, get that laugh. Get that laugh and get it in there tonight because nobody else is going to laugh like her. She's under drugs, all right?
Just in case you didn't know that. Okay. Oh, welcome back to Long Island in Crisis. So we were just going to talk about, so the Teen Institute is a very reasonably priced weekend for kids.
Yes.
And Thomas's Hope Foundation, I want to raise some more money to really scholarship kids to go there, because how will we have a societal change? Because we have to have a societal change to combat this epidemic that we are
Right.
now in.
Yeah.
And if we don't start 5 years from now, the drug will be different, but the problem will be escalated
Absolutely.
to
Still the
unbelievable.
Same symptoms,
Levels.
different resource that they're using.
We need to create this army that comes back to the schools, that can change. Not all the kids, just some of the kids.
Absolutely.
You know,
Because
it's going to be those little minute changes that move forward and create this army of kids that are empowered.
Yeah.
We want them to be empowered to face life head on and enjoy life.
Yeah.
They are not enjoying life. And that's what really, speaking to, had quite a few high schoolers on in the past few months. And when you ask them to describe their day, they're up at 5:30, especially a girl, because they have to get ready. They're at school by 7:15. They go through a full day. If they have sports or after-school clubs, they work. They come home and they have 5 hours worth of homework.
Yeah.
They're not having fun.
They don't get a chance to live, to exist.
No, they don't. They're
be
always
young.
have to be
They're so
someplace.
scheduled.
But then they have every adult saying to them, well, you should be having the time of your life. You're never going to have this freedom to just,
Yeah.
do this like you have
Yeah.
in high school. They're not having fun.
Right. There are so many. We ask the young people, how many adults have ever told you, to go out and have fun? How many adults have told you in your life to feel good about yourself, to have good self-esteem? And all
Yes.
of them will raise their hand because they've all been told. And then we ask them, how many have showed you, right? How many have really given you that opportunity to have fun, to be young, to create these experiences? And sometimes, they'll go out with their parents and they'll have fun, but it's not, they're so overscheduled with the things that they have
Yes.
to do that they don't factor in that having fun and breathing and really taking a minute to experience life and just check out what's around you is also something that we should have to do. We should really make
It's
it so that
mindfulness.
we should
Yes.
really make it so that we can have that time. When you do yoga, I'll do guided meditations in the car, do them going to sleep at night. These are things that if you make it a daily practice, it becomes a tool that you can use, and they're just not always given the right tools to learn these things. And so that's what we do out there. And you said, so it is a reasonably priced. So this year, the first conference that a young person comes on is $150. And that covers their room and board, their food, their fun.
And the food is
It is.
unbelievable.
I eat better.
And the snacks.
And the snacks.
Everything.
All the animal crackers you could possibly want. And I eat better when I'm there than I do at home because I
Yes.
don't cook for myself like that at home. And so it covers all of that, and it covers the entire experience. And so many of the speakers that we get, we're only able to get because we can raise the money to bring them in. And so as a nonprofit, we're constantly fundraising. We're constantly in our fundraisers asking for people who are going to sponsor a student to one of our programs, the Teen Institute conferences. And so the fact that Thomas's Hope wants to be a part of that is really incredible, because if we only make ourselves available to the students whose parents can afford it,
Right.
then we're missing a whole group of young people. So the fee is $150 for the first conference of the year, and then so there are up to 4 conferences per year. After that is $100 a conference, and sometimes that's still not
Right.
something that somebody can afford. So we do a lot of great fundraising, and a lot of the schools, the more that we can get into these schools and really start to bring teams from each school. We brought teams from Kings Park. We have teams of students from Sag Harbor, from West Hampton, Hampton Bays, and we want to branch out. We want to come more into Western Suffolk and bring
Yes.
all of these kids out for the weekend to Shelter Island. The more we can really create a presence in each of these schools, the more that we'll be able to talk to local organizations like Thomas's Hope, the more that we'll be able to talk to the schools about ways to bring kids out and to reduce and offset some of those costs, so that cost is never a prohibitive thing for a student to come.
Yes.
We will
It shouldn't be.
we would never turn anybody away for an inability to pay, but it's still it's still hard.
We still need to
Yeah.
have money
We still
to buy the
We
food.
still need to keep the lights on out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's at Quinnipiac.
Camp Quinnipiac, which is a beautiful, beautiful camp.
Right on the Sound.
Right on the Sound on Shelter Island. It could not be more perfect. You come out there and you feel that zen. You feel that connection to it's the water and the wind, and it's incredible.
It's that ability that everyone has laid in the grass and just looked at the sky and daydream.
Yeah,
And we have to give that back to our youth.
absolutely.
We have to give them that time to do nothing. And that is doing something more valuable than being busy 24 hours a
Right.
day. It's okay that your kid lays on the couch on Saturday morning and watches cartoons.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Having nothing in your mind is good for you.
Yeah, sometimes we need to reset, right? We need to sleep every day. If we don't get enough sleep, we don't operate as well as we should. If these kids aren't getting enough time, these young people aren't getting enough time to be young people, to meet other people, to have friends and have these great fun experiences before they go off to college, and they, by the time they get to college, sometimes they may not know how to meet new people and to have those great experiences. They may be okay through high school getting by and being very scheduled and being very studious and on their teams, and maybe they haven't learned some of those tools that are really necessary, those coping skills necessary to be successful in and outside of the classroom and in and on and off the field. And then they get to college and they have to restart.
Yes.
And
they have to relearn.
they have to relearn or
Really?
learn for the first time.
Yes.
And it's scary. It's an intimidating thing. And so there's a reason that, when we see young people drinking from when they're starting to drink in middle school, you've got your 6th and 7th grade
Yes.
students who, for the most part, are not. It's very low percentage rates. And then from 8th to 10th and 10th to 12th grades, the rates of increase of young people drinking and using drugs increases astronomically. It's mind-blowing, and we don't want that. We want to delay that first drink, that first use,
Yes.
the onset of that drug, of that alcohol, as long as we can, so that they can have these great experiences. And so when they come out to Teen Institute, sometimes we say on a Friday night when they're we're not going to give too much away, but when they're doing our games that we do on Fridays before dinner, meeting other kids, and by the time we settle down and we're bringing them in to send them off to bed on a Friday night, we say, what are some of your peers probably doing tonight on a Friday night? You're making the choice to be here, to be at this camp, knowing that it may be a struggle for you if you use drugs or if you use alcohol, and that you're making the choice to not do so, when some of your peers are not able to make that choice, or they're not ready, or they haven't been encouraged by the right person. And so they make that choice to not use drugs and not use alcohol that weekend. And then they can go back and they can tell their friend and they can say, I had a great time without the use of alcohol and drugs.
And
And
without
it's-
the use of my phone.
without the use of
And-
their phone.
And just talking and being.
Just meeting people.
Just being.
Just being
So
a
we-
person.
You know, we can never worry about the past.
Right.
The past is over. We
Absolutely.
learn from it and we move forward. Don't worry about tomorrow because it's not here yet. So they need to learn just to stay in the present moment. I'm not saying that you should not be concerned about your grades. You should be concerned about your grades in the grade that you are, in the semester that you're in.
Right. Fifth
And
graders
not-
shouldn't be worrying about SATs.
No, they shouldn't be worrying about going into sixth grade when they just started fifth grade. We're always, constantly just saying, but, it's your junior year. Now you have to make a decision what you're going to be for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I
It
think
can change.
and
It
it's
can
okay.
change in the blink of an eye.
And it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if they go to a community college instead of going away right away.
Mm-hmm.
There are kids, I'm sure Michael Phelps' mom didn't say, no, you're not going to swim.
Right.
That wasn't, we have these unbelievable, outstanding kids that go on to the Olympics. There's always going to be that one that you can't stop
Right.
the pace at which they excel at what they want to do.
Right.
That's really not the point for most, the
Right.
majority of.
For everybody else, it's trying something out. It's
Yes.
having something that you're passionate about and focusing, and really honing that, and being able to be proud of something that you've accomplished. And so, there are young people who will come out in the beginning of their 9th grade year, and they don't know, and so they say, time and time again, that by that time they're in 11th and 12th grade, being a part of these Teen Institute conferences has given them the strength and the courage to try out for the school musical, and to be a part of the sports team that they were nervous to try, and to really maybe to explore a path that they were scared to try before. And so
And to speak in public.
absolutely,
Just to see
these
them
young-
getting up in front of their peers.
they're so poised, these young people who
It's just
who lead this
incredible.
entire conference from the time that we start it at 6:30 on Friday, and they're doing the entire orientation.
So tell me, when you get a student leader, so that is limited, they have to have a certain number of conferences under their
Right.
belts.
We want 11th and 12th graders, juniors and seniors only, who've been on at least 3 conferences, preferably 4 or more, because we want them to have gone through at least 1 full year of the program and really experienced it as a participant, not saying, I want to do this so I can become a student leader. We
Right.
want them to get the experience for themselves in order to teach that to other students. So we're starting that process now in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be sending out our applications for the 15 to 20 11th and 12th graders, mostly 11th graders, who I know are very, very interested in being a student leader. And it's a very competitive process because it's a hard job. They work harder than Kim and I do on those weekends. They are the ones leading the groups, leading the energizers, leading, talking during family groups. They're the ones leading the activities on Saturday night when they're playing fun and games and dancing and having a great time.
And again, I'm going to say, we can discuss how kids are different today in the world that they're in. They're all the same, though.
Yeah.
You can go back 100 years, and you're still, when you put 50, 100 kids together, they just want to be silly.
And
they
they get
just
that opportunity.
Want to be silly.
Yeah.
They just want to laugh and giggle and have fun.
They want to remember what it was like.
Yeah.
And some of them didn't always have that. Some, for whatever reason. And so they get that opportunity sometimes for the first time. And that's, I think, one of the most powerful experiences
Unbelievable.
for these young people is realizing that they can meet somebody on Friday and be laughing so hard that their stomach is hurting by Saturday night. They can make these lifelong friends
Yes.
in a weekend. They can find people who they have a lot in common with, who live 3 towns away, who live halfway across the island, and they can find these experiences, and that not only broadens their world because they have those people, somebody in Sag Harbor and somebody in East Moriches are now good friends, but it gives them the courage to meet people in their own schools and to bring this experience back and bring some of Teen Institute, some of that magic, and sprinkle it back in their own community.
I think even more powerful is by meeting someone that's not in your group, that when you have a problem and you have a go-to person that isn't, jilted by all the drama that could be if
Right.
you knew everything that was going on,
Yeah.
that you really have somebody that can be unbiased, that can listen to you and say, you know what, I think you may be wrong, or I think you may be right.
Right.
But to give them that judgment, or
Right.
that outside look,
Yeah.
to say, this is what I would do, without having, your core group of friends. I'm mad at you because you spoke to this
Right.
one. All the drama that
Yeah.
goes along
Yeah.
with a lot of what happens in high school.
Yeah, absolutely. Meeting people from different communities, from different social circles. People can meet for the first time on this weekend and they go to the same school.
Yes.
But they don't interact because they run into different circles.
Yes.
So it really broadens that for them. And so getting back to our student leaders, when they become the go-to people, they are
They
some
are
of the participants
go-to people.
look at them as the superstars of the
Yes.
weekend. And so when you're in high school and you have this position where people look up to you and where you are somebody that people come to talk to we teach our student leaders not to give advice. We teach them a lot about humility. We tell them that these weekends it's all about you and it's not about you at all. That their role on this weekend is to create a better experience for somebody else, just like the student leader did for them, the reason that they're there.
Yes.
It's a very cyclical, it's a really, really beautiful experience. And these student leaders learn humility and grace and leadership, and they become role models for other people. And they learn that a 16-year-old can listen to somebody else, to another 16-year-old, and can be there and be empathetic and be sympathetic and say, you did a great job, and can empower themselves and can empower the other people, whoever's talking to them, and can say, now I think that we should go talk to an adult about this, that they know that they're not the ones who are going to be taking control, that they learn the responsibility of being that go-to person, that it's not always trying to solve somebody's problem, it's helping give them the tools to figure it out on their own. It's a very strength-based, a very beautiful experience that these young people go out of high school, and from this experience, these student leaders and these participants will go into college and go into their careers, whether they're going to be teachers or social workers or engineers or astronauts, or we have
Or just a good
incredible,
person.
a good person, whatever they're going to be,
Right.
they're going to be a really great person in that. And they learn these tools that'll make them a great employee, a great spouse, if they find somebody, a great partner, a great friend, a member of whatever community they're in because of these experiences.
And the greatest gift that you can teach someone is by teaching them to help someone else.
Absolutely.
And there is true joy.
Yeah,
And they need to feel that,
absolutely.
because they will continue doing that.
Yeah,
Because we all want to feel that. And each of us want to feel needed.
absolutely.
And that is missing in the world today.
yeah,
And they're very self-centered, and they're taught to be very self-centered. And they shouldn't be.
right.
It's not what can you do for me.
Right.
It's what can I do for you
Yeah,
that's going to make me feel like a better person.
yeah,
And just by doing that and having those go-to people, having someone validate your feelings, that's really will keep them from making very poor choices.
yeah. The unhealthy choices, those high-risk choices that we hear so many young people are making these days, that all comes from, most of it comes from not having those tools necessary to properly to effectively handle what's going on in our lives. And sometimes the high-risk choices come from curiosity. Not every young
Absolutely.
person who drinks is trying to mask some deep, dark emotion. Sometimes they're curious, sometimes it's pressure. They all want to be part of. Like you said, they all want to feel validated and needed, And so when you feel validated by a group
and
of
fit in.
we all want to fit in. As adults, we all want to fit in. And so when you can feel like you fit in, when you can feel validated by a group of young people who are struggling, some not always successful in it, but who are attacking head on this idea that they want to be healthy, they want to make healthy choices in their own lives, in their relationships, in their families, in what they put in their bodies, and what they study or don't study. When you're surrounded by those people, and inspires you, and it makes you feel like you can also do these things, it empowers you.
It
That's
really
what they
does.
learn.
That's what they learn.
I'm inspired by them every single day. When I'm at home and when I'm going to make a choice and I say, well, I need to live the way that I would want to teach the young people in my life to be as
Someone's
an adult.
always looking up to you.
There's always
or looking
someone
at
watching.
you. Someone's always watching.
Absolutely.
So we need to, just give them some good tools.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough about what you guys do out there, because it really was life-changing.
Thank you so
I know
much.
Jen Lebowitz and I left there like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? We're losers.
No. Well, I started out as a volunteer. When I was working in another organization, I met Kim Lauby and I found out about this program and I said, I need to be a part of that. And
It was just, it's so great to watch them work together and while they're seemingly just having fun, to solve some very complex things. And there's 8 or 10 of them, which you would think that they're all going to be yelling. And it usually starts out that way. But the natural leader will come forward, and then there will be other
Yeah.
ideas. And it's amazing to watch the process happen.
Yeah. And they learn that there are different kinds of leaders. Sometimes it's the place for the quiet leader to step up. Sometimes it's that leader who's going to get the message across. Sometimes it's the leader who can shout over 75 people in a room and get everyone's attention, but do it in a way that's not condescending.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the leader who can be silly, and sometimes it's the leader who can inspire you and really make you think and be introspective about what's going on in your own life. And so they learn that there are all these different aspects to leadership, and they explore, and they learn that they don't have to be every kind of leader. They just have to focus on the person who they are,
Yes.
and that their own
And
leadership
play
is
to
going
their
to shine
strengths.
through.
Play to their
Absolutely.
strengths. They learn what their strengths may be.
Yeah.
Because in all the challenges that they face during that weekend, and they are games, but they are challenges, they each have a strength there that they get to think that problem through in a different way.
Everybody participates, and everybody brings something to that experience. Those groups, you leave a group of 10 to 12 people and you say, this group would not have been this group if it wasn't for every person sitting here. Just like the efforts that they make in their communities would not, they can be successful in different ways, but the impact that they bring in their communities would not have been the same if it weren't for them and for the role that they bring, for the person that they are, and for what they can do for their community. And so we really, really stress, as much as they have a great weekend when they come out to Shelter Island, that they bring that back into their community and learn that the entire world, their school, their community, their neighborhood, to look at it like this big family group, like this big community group.
Yes.
And that
What a
everybody
great
has a
analogy.
role.
Yes.
That everybody has a role in that community, and that they are just as important and they are just as valuable, absolutely, as anybody else, and to really focus on that. And that's the way that we build leaders, by building us up, right? So many people in high school, they try and tear you down, right? They learn that.
Kids are mean.
They're,
Let's
yeah.
call it what it is. Kids are mean.
Yeah.
And you're going to get bullied and you're going to get a lot of things, but to be able to have a place or someone else that you could call to say, this is what happened today and I'm really
Yeah.
angry about it, or I'm really whatever I am, I'm really hurt by it,
Yeah.
that someone is saying, I know exactly how you feel, and it's
Yeah.
okay.
And to also to be able to have the strength of mind, the strength of heart, to say that if someone does something to me, it's not always a reflection of who I am, but sometimes it's about them and what they're going through, and not to internalize everything. We often take things personally when it doesn't need to be. I do this.
We
we'll all do it
It's-
from
it's-
time to time.
It's
and
human nature.
It is. And so to really focus on not on looking at the reason behind something, right? At the reason behind how the bullying, just like we said, the substance use, the bullying, often these are just symptoms of a
Yes.
greater problem, right? You know, our runny nose, our fever is just a symptom of the cold, of the flu, of the fact that we're not taking great care of ourselves
Correct.
if we're sick. So we really need to get at why we're sick in the first place. We need to get at what's causing that in the first place. And so being able to stand up for yourself in that kind of situation is really incredible. And being able to take all these issues and really look at them and say, what can I do to make this better, instead of, why is this happening to me?
Exactly.
Sometimes that's
No, you have
That's
to
the lesson
empower
we can learn.
yourself to handle your own problems. You can't be the victim. Complaining is the language of victims. So we need to change that complaining into a concrete plan that
Yeah.
they can really put forth.
Yeah, we teach young people to channel their frustration and to channel that stress and learn mindfulness, learn all these tools that are going to help them to say, this is the issue going on in my life, in my school, in my family. How can I try and help to make it better? Or how can I sometimes avoid what's going on, right? It's not always, we're not all superheroes. We don't have to solve every problem.
No.
Sometimes it's a matter when we have young people who have friends who are making unhealthy choices, who are choosing to drink or use drugs and other unhealthy things. Sometimes they realize they're not going to be able to stop their friend from making that choice. Sometimes it's a matter of stepping aside.
Yes.
And sometimes that takes more
Courage.
strength and
Yes.
courage than telling somebody not to do it, right? To really, to be able to look and say, what's best for me in this situation, and how can I be the best version of myself no matter what? And that's leadership. And that's who they
I
are.
can't believe that we're out of time already. But I think the biggest message is, first off, it's an incredible weekend. But besides that, if we don't start empowering our youth to handle life, whatever life is at their moment in time and their age that they are, we have to start building these skills in for them. We're going to have a healthier generation.
Absolutely.
We will have healthier families.
Yep.
We know that, because I think that families really do need to take a step back and be a little selfish and be a little introverted within your own family
Sure.
unit.
Talking
And-
to each other,
Exactly. And learning how to just be mindful.
how to be, yeah.
Just how to be.
How to experience each other, right? Family game nights, dinners, things like that. The same
That's
that we
not
teach.
faggy.
No,
It's not nerdy.
it's not.
It's called, wow, I
It's
didn't know
called-
that. I didn't know my kid was so awesome.
It's
Or I
called
didn't
wi-
know
yeah.
my parent was so
Yeah.
much fun.
Yeah. It's called wiggling your toes and being where your feet are at.
Yep.
And really living in that moment and realizing that there's something great and there's something we can learn from every moment, and there's a way that we can make things better all of the time, most of the time.
Most of the time. Most of the time. Everybody's going to have their moments. But in today's world, when I speak to however many people, young people in treatment, and I say, if you could go back and talk to yourself, what age would you be? And the overwhelming answer is 12. And we have people on waiting lines for rehabs.
Yeah.
We have to start doing something
Yeah.
with our elementary school up to that magic age of 11, because something's not going right in
Right.
their world
Something's
for
going
them.
on.
Right. There's only going to be that percentage that are the risk takers.
Right.
The rest are using that for their symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
They're using that as their cough medicine.
Right. And so that's why it's great that we do these conferences 4 times a year for high school students and 1 time a year for middle school students. So we are we're on Facebook. We're at Hugs Inc. and
Hugs
on,
Inc.
on Instagram, and our website is currently under construction, but it's almost done. And you can email if they're interested. If somebody's interested, they can email Alana, ALANA, at hugsinc.org, and that's me, and I will be happy to
And they
talk
can
with
reach
anyone.
out to Thomas's Hope Facebook page, email me, call me, do whatever
Yes.
you want. If
And you'll get them
if
with
you
us.
think that your child would benefit from this program, and there is not a child on the face of the earth that would not benefit from this program. And I know that you're going to go out more into New York State
We are.
as funding gets more
Yep.
available.
We're looking at a.
There is not a price tag that this should not be about money. This is
No.
not about money. This is about health and wellness
Absolutely.
for our youngest generation.
and exploring the leaders that are inside every young person.
Yes.
And that's what we do.
And that is the perfect ending. Exploring, say it again.
I forget what I said. Exploring, no, it's exploring the leadership that's in each one of us.
Yes.
And that's what we do. And that's every young person has something to contribute. And if they give themselves the opportunity, they can discover that.
And it is. It's an amazing experience. And in light of the current situation of the substance use disorder at such a high rate,
Yeah.
and we can talk about crime, and we can talk about all of the things that are skyrocketing. It's not, they're all connected.
Yeah.
So we need to agree. I know that most people would agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
You can try to bury your head in the sand, but let's empower our youth to
Yeah. And prevention.
Yes.
Prevention works.
prevention works.
We know it.
Yep. Thank you so much, sweetheart.
Thank you, Linda, for having me.
Have a great week, and I will see you next week. Any questions, please reach out to us. Please. Have a great week.